Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Late Winner Show. I have Keiran Maguire from the Price of Football podcast to talk about the Derby County situation that's been going on. Before we actually start the conversation, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Late Winner Show podcast. Follow us on the Instagram and Twitter for any kind of football news that's been happening or that you want on your mobile device. Please make sure that you follow us, and any kind of new updates that have been coming to our channel, any new weekly episodes that are going to come out on the weekends. Definitely go follow us to get the latest news on there. Yeah, administration. That's where Derby County are. Derby County, the two-time former First Division champions, they've been hammered with a 12-point penalty as well. Rock bottom of the championship with -2 points, and I feel like they've very little hope left for them. So what does it really mean for them when a club enters administration? Does the club need to do a mass sale of the players? Who gets paid first? How do they get paid? And most importantly, how do the club get out of that situation? I mentioned I have Keiran Maguire from the Price of Football podcast here. So to talk about this situation, hi Keiran, how you doing? Welcome to the Late Winner Show podcast.
Well, thanks very much for the invite. Yeah, all is good here. Exciting times for me as a Brighton fan, because as we record, potentially for probably the first and almost certainly the last, my team have a chance of going top of the Premier League. So yeah. Sure. It'll end in disappointment. That's what football's about. It's the hope that keeps you going.
Yeah, I mean, we are here to talk about Derby County, but you mentioned you're a Brighton fan. We did a preview, or I don't think anybody would have predicted before the season started that Derby Brighton would have been in this situation where they had a chance to go top of the table. I think everyone was going for a relegation battle again, but here we are. Every of the major teams has dropped points this weekend, and Brighton has a chance to go top of the table.
Yes, and I think the unpredictability of football is one of the reasons why we do love the game, and that's why it needs protecting from those people that want to take the unpredictability away from it. Yeah, the people behind Super League and so on.
Yeah, before we get started, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your podcast as well?
I'm a teacher here in the UK. I teach at the University of Liverpool, where I actually teach football finance. So I do a lot of media work with BBC here in the UK, but also many other countries around the world, because for some reason, if it's football, nobody's interested in the financial stories of motor companies and airlines. You throw football into the mix, and people become intrigued. So I was approached by somebody at the BBC who was setting up a podcast production company, wanted a sort of a flagship show for his company, and I must confess my attitude was, A, nobody will be interested in it, and B, there won't be enough material, so it will disappear very quickly. But I thought, well, the least I can do is be polite and say yes. So we've got 3 million downloads, 189 episodes have gone out. What started off as a show which was going out once a week for 20 minutes is now going out twice a week for an hour each time. So there's been a lot of growth. We get fantastic guests on the show. I'm very fortunate to work alongside a stand-up comedian called 𝗕𝗲𝗏. Kevin's an absolutely brilliant presenter. So he makes me look a lot better than I am through his professionalism.
That's great. Yeah. Let's get the show started. Obviously, I think I briefly mentioned, obviously, the episode is about Derby County being in administration. What's the easiest way to explain what going into administration means?
Well, going into administration means that the ownership of a company is transferred into the hands of some professionals. But everybody who was formerly owed money has their credit locked. So you cannot force a company out of business when they go into administration. So if you owe a lot of money to your creditors, going into administration gives you protection from them and allows the professionals to try to find somebody to take on the business, and the administrators will try to sell the business, and they will use the sale money as a means of paying off the former creditors. Now, the former creditors won't necessarily get all of what they're owed, but the aim is to generate more money than would have happened had the company gone into liquidation. So Derby County are able to continue playing football. They are able to continue paying the wages of the staff, provided the administrators can generate enough money, and that will give them a bit of breathing space to try to find alternative ownership, because the club has been financially mismanaged for many years.
Okay. But then, so when an administrator actually takes control of the football club, like what tools do they use to save the business?
Well, they'll use their experience. I mean, it's a job that I used to do myself before I went into teaching. And so the first thing they will do is they will identify what there is to sell. Now, it's slightly complicated in the case of Derby, because the club owner, a guy called Mel Morris, he sold the biggest asset that a club has, which is its stadium. He sold it to himself. So that's not part of the assets which the administrators can sell, but they'll list those out. They will come to some form of agreement with suppliers to take on new supplies, and the administrators will guarantee that if you are a new supplier or you supply fresh goods, you will be paid. The other thing that they will be looking at is the costs of running the football club, and the worst news is that it's highly probable that there are going to be significant job losses. We've already seen Steve McLaren, who was acting as a sort of a consultant there. I think his role has been stopped, and they will be taking stock and slowly letting people go. So it's not a pleasant experience. But if we take the view that if the club is saved and therefore some jobs are saved, it's better than the alternative, which is the club going out of business altogether.
So you mentioned, like, the club has to pay the money back to its workers and whoever, like, Derby County is still allowed to play football. But if they don't have any money, because I guess like Mel Morris invested so heavily in the last 5 years, and obviously that Frank Lampard coming in, and they were so close coming into the Premier League as well, that obviously might have impacted a lot of their business. But when you say that, when we say that they're into administration, basically they don't have any money. So how do they actually go back and pay the money when they don't have it?
Well, first of all, the administrators, they will inherit the bank balance that Derby County had when it went into administration. So that's what they've got to play with. What they then have to do is to try to find some fresh funding. Now, we don't know how much cash they've got in the bank account. But it could be that Mel Morris feels responsible for getting the club into the position into which it presently finds itself, and he could provide funding himself to allow the administrators to trade their way out. They could get support from some of the other creditors who see the benefits of the club trading out of administration and the administrators selling Derby County, that it could be in their long-term interest. So they will be talking to a variety of parties. If they make no progress and they feel that there's going to be no money coming in, they will then have a difficult decision to make as to whether or not to continue the work of the administration. And what nobody wants is that worst case scenario where the club is effectively closed down.
Mm-hmm. One question that I had was, going into the administration obviously brings a 12-point penalty, which obviously has been applied to Derby County, but it isn't always applied immediately. Why does that happen?
Well, no, it is applied, or it is an automatic deduction if you enter administration. Now, what happened with Derby is that, first of all, they announced a an intention to go into administration. So they said, well, this is what we're thinking of doing. We've now got to go through a wee period of time when we decide which firm are going to be the administrators. So that's what happened. And as soon as they formally went into administration, the 12-point deduction was applied. If they come out of administration, they then have to pay their suppliers of the old Derby County. They've got to pay those at least a quarter of what is owed to them. And if they fail to do that within 12 months, then they'll suffer a further 15-point deduction. And this is to stop unscrupulous owners putting clubs deliberately into administration with a view to effectively wiping clean the former debts of the business.
Okay. In their statement on Wednesday, or last week, I think they said, the administrator said that the immediate objectives are to just go with the season, fulfilling the remaining fixtures, and finding a buyer, to safeguard the club and all its employees. Just how hard that is, that challenge is to actually get that started.
It all comes down to cash. So we're not talking about profit. There's a difference between cash and profit. It all comes down to cash management. And if the administrators, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, if they acquire a company or take control of a company which does have cash in the bank, that provides the ability to pay the bills. Now, the other thing that the administrators can do is that they can generate cash over the course of the next few weeks. So, from looking at Derby County forums, many fans who are not season ticket holders say, well, we are going to order tickets as early as we can, because if we buy tickets, that's fresh cash for the club, and therefore that will allow the administrators to trade. I've even seen some season ticket holders saying, I've already got a season ticket, but I'm going to buy a ticket anyway because I want to help my club to survive. So all of these are fantastic gestures from fans. The administrators will be looking to see if there's any assets that they can sell, which could generate additional cash. So that could be property assets, that could be assets which the club isn't using very much. Whether that they will generate huge sums, we don't know. And clearly there's an issue with the stadium. If Mel Morris has a conscience, then what he might do is to say, well, I'm going to sell Pride Park, Derby County's stadium, to the administrators for £1, and that will allow the administrators then to sell it at a much higher price. But Mel Morris is under no obligation to do things like this. Ultimately, he's a very successful business person, and you don't become successful by being charitable.
And then obviously that brings a second challenge for the club, which is selling the club actually. To where do we even start with that? And just because of the deep hole that this club is in, are there any investors who will be looking to get into this situation? Because the first thing would obviously be, paying all these debts and then starting all over again from the bottom. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm pretty sure that they are already destined for a League One. So you don't get that much money in League One anyway. So does any investor want to invest that much money right now in Derby County?
Derby County ultimately has one of the 92 tickets in English football, and they have the ability to get into the Premier League. So that makes them an attractive proposition. Now, even though you might be buying a club which has a high chance of going into League One, Derby have the capacity to attract 30,000 fans to matches. That's good. It has history and heritage, as you mentioned. It's won the Premier Division. Back in the 1970s when it was called the First Division. So it has an attraction to investors, but the fact that you're going to have to pay millions and millions to the creditors has an impact as well. So that will affect the price that the administrators will be able to extract for the business. If we take a look at clubs in League One and the Championship, over the course of the past 12 to 18 months, we've seen Charlton, Sunderland, Ipswich, Wigan, and Wigan went into administration, came out of administration, and are now top of League One. So it might just be a temporary stay in that division. So you should never say never when it comes to football administration. The vast majority of them are successful. I think the additional challenges they have at Derby is that the main assets, being the stadium and the players, the stadium no longer belongs to the club, and the players, there's not that many of them that would generate a high price. And of course, we're having this conversation in September, and the window doesn't open until January. So that makes a hard job harder, but harder isn't the same as impossible.
And what happens to Wayne Rooney from here? I know he's already said that he's going to stick with the club until his contract expires in 2023.
Well, I think Wayne Rooney is an asset for the administrators. He given his history and his achievements within the game, at a football club where leadership disappeared pre-administration. The Mel Morris wouldn't answer Wayne Rooney's phone calls. There was no communication with the club. The chief executive, Stephen Pearce, he disappeared from view. That's a sign of weak leadership. But the one person who has come out of this with huge amounts of credit is Wayne Rooney. He has identified that it's not just the players. We all focus up on the players, but Derby County employs hundreds of people, and those are the people working in the canteen, working in the back office. They are all fearing for their jobs and a tough time economically here in the UK at present. You can understand those fears. So Wayne Rooney has, I think, been a superb leader, and that's to his credit. And I think Derby County fans should be proud of the way that he has behaved in giving the fans and the players something to rally around. So I would imagine the administrators would want to carry on with him. They could dismiss him, but you still need a first team coach. So it would be very short-sighted of them, I think, to get rid of him, and also any potential buyers, given that he is contractually committed for another couple of years. You can see the benefits for them as well, that there will be acquiring a club managed by the guy who's a record England goal scorer, Manchester United goal scorer. His achievements within the game, I think myself, are too swiftly forgotten.
Yeah, I think, lastly, I just want to ask, how Derby County can get out of this situation.
Well, all that it requires is one potential investor to come up with a price that's acceptable to the administrators, and then the next thing that would take place is that the EFL would put through what's referred to as an owners and directors test to make sure that the prospective owner does not have any outstanding criminal convictions, and B, they can evidence that they have the resources to trade Derby County for the next year or two. And on the back of that, Derby County go again. And that's what everybody in football wants, even Nottingham Forest fans, because we have this saying in football, you can't have a rivalry without rivals. So, and I think that is something for all fans of clubs to remember. Yes, you want your rival club to lose. You want scandalous and salacious stories which paint them in a bad light, but you've still got friends who support them in almost inevitably, and there's seeing them suffer on the pitch is one thing. Seeing people lose jobs and suffer off the pitch is another. And I think the vast majority of fans, even of clubs such as Forest, who are their rivals, they want to have bragging rights. They want to be able to beat Derby County on the pitch, and you can't do that unless there is a Derby County to play.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. I think that is all from my side. I think that was very well explained on what Derby's situation is at the moment and how can they get out of the situation. I would really like to thank again, Keiran, you for coming on to our podcast, the Late Winner Show podcast, and explaining what Derby County is going through and how can they come out of this situation.
Well, thank you very much for the invite, Risha.
Thank you. Before we log off, obviously, I have to say, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, The Late Winner Show. We did release some, a couple of episodes on audio podcasts. So it's available on your favorite streaming platforms over there as well. Go head out and check out our audio podcast as well. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well for any kind of football news, any latest episodes that are going to be coming out. Again, Keiran, thank you so much, and I'll see you later. Thank you.
Cheers.